This week's throwdown for time, 2K row, 50 alternating pistols, 30 ring muscle-ups.
Happy New Year's, everyone. Throwdown 80 for movement standards, a scaled version of the workout, or to get on the leaderboard, check the description below. Two athletes we got on the left, Jake Berman, on the right, Jacob Cantu. Jake on the left is sanctional games bubble level athlete, and Jacob, depending on the movements, would probably be an intermediate to RX athlete. So we'll see a little bit of a discrepancy in terms of athlete talent in this workout, but I think that's good to try to give people a context for how to push in the workout.
Yeah, this is a good one because Jake on the left is, world class at all these movements, but Jacob has the skills to do all of these, but obviously just a little bit lower level. So you'll see how two different athletes attack this.
Yeah, both of them, I would say, probably just based on their size competing in the sport, rowing wouldn't necessarily be a strength. So we have this sped through, and Jake on the left will get off first at 7:04. That probably will be like 15 to 20 seconds slower than maybe somebody like who's better at rowing in the sport, where you might be able to push a 6:45, 6:50 and get off and still kind of be comfortable.
Yeah,
I think it's an interesting balance, though. I'm interested to see the top of the leaderboard, like those 15 seconds on the row. How much does that actually help you when it comes to one more break on the muscle ups?
Yeah, that's definitely key here. Jake has worked on his rowing a lot, so he's definitely improved. I think maybe even a year ago he'd have been 7:15 or 7:20. So those seconds do matter. It just, like Mia says, is it taking away from the speed of the pistols and the muscle ups?
Yeah, so Jake's getting off. He got off at 7:04, pulled up the knee sleeves, and then gets started at 7:16. So 12 seconds to transition, and you can see his speed of pistols here is just
so good.
Excellent. He's got perfect limb proportions for it, and it's just a good movement.
Yeah.
It's not what I look like when I do it.
If you can get in a groove like that too, like you see Noah do this. I remember Mary 2 years ago at the games. It was just like so nice to watch someone that could just, he was balling out the entire time. But having that cadence definitely helps. Whereas like you see most people, they're bouncing around on their foot. They have to pause for a second. They grab their foot. There are all these kind of limitations that people have. But if you can get to that, then you're way ahead of the field.
Yeah, so Jacob, you could see he's a little bit less in terms of his fluidity, but he still has really good speed. He kind of seems to have a little bit more of a hinge in his pistol, where he's getting to depth by pushing his butt back, whereas Jake is kind of, looks like his knee drives a little bit more forward and internal. And there's different strategies to be able to do that you have to figure out for yourself based on how long your femurs are and how long your tibias are and how flexible you are. But different strokes for different folks.
Wow, Chris. Great. Fantastic.
I think Jacob did a really good job on the pistols. You'll see he stays pretty fluid throughout. I think he takes like one quick break at the top, but he got through them pretty well.
So you see that transition from Jake. He's super confident muscle ups. I mean, probably one of the best in the world if you just did like a 30 for time.
Yeah.
But that was like 3 or 4 seconds, walks over there, and he knows that I can go from pistols to muscle ups and do one big set right away.
Yeah.
He did say that he was very surprised with how affected the muscle ups were at that point. Like he had a plan. I think he wanted to go like 10-9. I don't know what the math works out, but it was like 3 or 4 sets. And you'll see what happens.
His pistols were done in 1:21, so that is flying.
Yeah.
I think most people are going to be closer to the 2 to 5 minutes even. So kind of factor that in when you're watching this. That might be an unrealistic demo person to watch if you're coming up with a time for how long this workout's going to take you.
I do think it's really good though to see like someone that is close to the best in the world at these movements. You get an idea of like how far you have to go, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but it gives you a realistic view of what you have to work on to get to that point.
For sure. So he opened with 9, and then this set ends at 8, correct?
Yeah, so he did 9 and then 8 for his second set,
Yeah.
which is really
With a
good.
pretty quick transition in between.
Yeah. Jacob on the right was 1:43 for the pistols, so that's still
Super
pretty
fast.
quick for 50 reps. So take that into consideration as well. What you're watching is not necessarily something that's going to be easy to replicate.
Yeah. And then, he had a quick transition too, and then started out with 6, which is, in my opinion, a pretty big set there. But he's also good enough at muscle ups that he can do those larger sets.
We'll see.
One of the things you'll notice is when Jake's doing these, there's pretty good tension on the straps the entire time, and they're not swinging a ton. He's kind of letting his body do the work. Whereas Jacob, and maybe it changes here in the second set, but that first set, there was a little bit of a pop in the straps when he was coming down, and they were swinging a ton. and that can cause you to slow down quite a bit if you have to stabilize at the top.
Yeah, also Jake is getting a little bit fatigued in terms of the smoothness and fluidity, and it seems like he's getting kind of caught in the bottom and then having to press out strict, or at least on the last rep of the last one. We'll see if it happens here. Yeah, like that little pause. That can add a lot of fatigue to pressing, having to stabilize. But he seems to have a good rhythm, and he's still keeping pretty quick breaks to push this pace.
Yeah. I feel like that's the first thing to go for me is my pull always feels okay, but I start catching it maybe a little bit deeper, so maybe my pull's not. Yeah. But the dip out gets really, really tough.
Yeah.
It's like a different movement when you can hit that backswing out of the dip versus not. For me, as soon as that goes away, it's like, all right, come down. You're about to blow up.
You can see the difference in the way that they swing too with their bodies. I mean, Jake has a really long and open swing. Jacob, and then Jake's a little bit tighter, which obviously I think years of practice of the sport he's a little bit more efficient at the movement.
Yeah, something to take into consideration that doesn't really highlight direct or translate directly to time is how aggressively they come down from the top of the rings. I think like he's basically falling from the top. It's a lot of energy on your legs and just heart rate in general to have to stabilize that way. And I've actually found that coming down from the muscle up into a minor kip swing and then like coming down softly actually allows me to, like what Jacob just did right there, actually allows for better endurance over a long duration set.
And it helps with the rings swinging all over the place.
That's what I was going to say is especially when you start going to singles or doubles or whatever your strategy is, if it's smaller sets, having the rings kind of not swinging as much makes it a lot easier to jump back up.
I don't usually have that problem because I take long enough rests. Like gravity stabilizes them for me. Yeah.
You're swinging them on purpose. I gotta wait.
That's how I gotta rest. Yeah.
So what time did Jake finish?
Jake finished at 11:37, and I don't know what rep we're in here for Jacob, but he did 6, then 4, then 3, and now he's been doing doubles. So I'm assuming he's going to chip away in these at doubles.
I don't think there's anything wrong with doubles, especially on ring muscle ups. But it's all about how much you rest in between. Yeah. That was a pretty obvious thing to say. Yeah.
But what?
I think that like being aware of the clock when you're in such a big set like this, like for me, 30 muscle ups is very intimidating, and I can definitely over-rest. So I would have to make sure that I'm looking at the clock or having my judge telling me how much I'm resting, because I will over-rest a ton on them because it is such an intimidating set.
Yeah, so he got off at 13:12. Let's just take a look at what these rest breaks look like and see.
So while he's doing that, Max, you can count the time. One of the things, Max, you've done, you talk about with handstand push-ups is like you'll try to do a double on the 20 seconds or on the 30.
Like that.
So Mia, in that same vein of staying on a clock, that may be a really good strategy to start out with a couple big sets and then go on the 30 seconds or on the 35 or 40, whatever you can manage, but then pick a number and try to stick with it for as long as you can.
Yeah, so we were 27 seconds there on a rest break. So, I mean, those are pretty long breaks for an elite athlete, but I think for most people in a set of 30 muscle ups in the end of a Metcon, that's probably what you're looking at is somewhere from 20 to 30 seconds in between your sets. So maybe if you know that, chip away with bigger sets in the beginning or start smaller sets and maybe try to keep the rest breaks down to 10 seconds. You just
10 seconds is such a quick break on muscle ups.
Yeah, it's just it's such a large amount of muscle ups that, if you're not an elite trained athlete in that volume, at some point you're just going to get to the point where you need longer breaks to finish the movement.
Yeah, one way you could look at this is if you've ever done 30 muscle ups for time, you can take whatever your best time is there, and obviously you're not going to get that time, you're going to have to slow that down, but reverse engineer, like how do I manage 30 fresh, and then think about what it's going to feel like after the row and the pistols, and then come up with a strategy. Maybe it is still a set of 6 like Jacob started with, but then I am going to fast 3s and then 2s and then singles.
I think just finding a way to stay disciplined, whether it's the clock or something simple, like I'm only going to chalk after every other set or every third set, so that you're not like looking, I know it's not like you're consciously looking for an excuse to rest, but it's easy to like make up reasons to rest longer in something like this, and then you're going to just lose a lot of time.
Yeah, so now the dip's getting challenged as well. Heart rate, you could definitely tell, that's my famous resting posture. That's what I like to do as well.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that resting posture.
Yeah, I mean, again, once your dip goes, it makes it much more challenging to get back up because you don't want to fail one. But this is, to me, where you start practicing how to kip out of those really deep dips. So, like, you can have low rings, practice this in your gym where you're getting down to the bottom where your shoulders are, like, below the rings, and then learn how to kip out of that because it's a useful tool to have when you're here.
Yeah, also just doing strength training where you are, I watch people do strict ring dips and they basically just touch their bicep to the strap to shorten the range of motion. But if you're trying to have it translate into your ability to get out of a deep dip, do full range of motion, full depth, where the shoulder is going well below the hands, and it will pay dividends. I see that with single bar dips too on bar muscle ups. People do them and they basically like touching below their sternum, and you watch a gymnast do it and it's getting like almost to their clavicle. It makes a big difference in terms of overall sustainability.
So this is his last two. Gets to 30.
1609.
Great job,
Nice
Jacob.
job.
Well done.
Project Pat, take us away.
I didn't say it because I didn't know if we had to do movement standards.
You said that at the beginning.
Oh, yeah. Damn it.
It's a wrap, you know what I'm saying? Your boy Project Pata in this thing, man. Hey, look, man, thank y'all for watching Training Think Tank's YouTube channel. Y'all hit that motherfucking subscribe button, you know what I'm saying? So y'all go ahead, man. Thank y'all for watching the channel, you know what I'm saying? Hit that motherfucking subscribe button. Let it be known, what it be known, what it be known, you know what I'm saying? Pata.